Hello, everyone. Welcome back to episode 12 of Bunny Musings. This is Bunny, and today I am, well, I have a bit more of an analysis, and it's about why I think the original Devil Wears Prada was so much more magical than the sequel. Even though yes, the sequel is nice, and I'm sure everyone worked really hard on it. I did enjoy it. It was fun to watch, especially after all this time, um, because I definitely didn't watch The Devil Wears Prada until I was a bit older, so it doesn't have a super nostalgia factor for me. I just really enjoyed the movie. Um, But yeah, and so the main point overall that I think differentiates the original versus the sequel to me is that the original seemed to have so much more visual storytelling, but this sequel had more of like talky plot kind of storytelling, which usually the golden rule is show, not tell. Even in writing, you're supposed to describe things and I don't know, trust your viewer to put the pieces together and pick up what you're putting down, basically. So from a direction standpoint, I liked the first movie a lot more, but I will say that this sequel took on a lot more. And so I should mention spoilers. Yes, I should totally mention that. Okay, from now on there will be spoilers. Um yes, I will get into specific things. I'm not gonna vaguely talk about the sequel. I'm gonna actually talk about the sequel. Um and I was lucky enough to go see it twice, which is very nice. The first time, I was sort of more in analysis mode, and I was I don't want to say nitpicking, but I, I was certainly oh, this is not what I expected, and also uh, different directional things. But yeah, overall, obviously, outfits were great and amazing as always. Um, there's something just so iconic and classic about the first movie, though. But I will say that sequels are rarely ever beyond what the original delivered. Um, yeah. And it's just when something is so beloved, it's hard to, especially after all this time, to rise to those expectations. There's a lot to fill. There's obviously people who want nostalgia, and there's people who want progression, and it's hard to balance all of that. All of the callbacks were really cute, the little like cerulean belts in the park at the very beginning of the film was quite nice. And yeah, there was just lots of cute moments, but I will say that upon initial watch through, I didn't feel that the movie was as lived in as a natural feeling as the first one. Like, there was certainly nods to the original like cinematography and editing style with like that one very famous scene where every time there's a transition, she's in a new outfit. That was nodded to and it was done in a new way with like all of the characters, which was quite cool. Um, but it wasn't as like edited to the same. I don't know. There was just something about it. Obviously, it's different. You know, obviously, it's gonna hit differently. But what I mostly felt at the end of the film was a bit bewildered by the pacing of the story because it was quite fast. It felt like they spent a lot of time talking about um, the magazine downsizing and cutting costs and consolidation that's sort of happening everywhere. And like so many industries are doing that. But they specifically mentioned like sucking the soul out of things and like decreasing standards for visionaries and artistic excellence and execution quality, and that like everything has kind of gone downhill in many ways as like things get faster and things get automated and like attention spans get shorter and prices rise, and like it like very much I appreciated that it was a very current film. Like it had so much to say about like the state of the economy and the state of art because of the economy, and just like how media and publishing is changing and how everything's digital. And like what particularly stood out to me was there was a point in the film where Nigel was like, um, what did he say? That he used to have like this big budget to go out to like film in another country and get all these photo shoots done with all these models, and now they're lucky if they get like a few hours in a studio to shoot something that people are just going to scroll past on the toilet. And it was quite interesting because I had never considered that, like, maybe companies aren't willing to spend, like, to invest that much money in something that isn't going to turn a profit, because, like, the magazine used to be sold, and now the magazine, I don't know if it's sold necessarily. I feel like it probably has to be, but they're like digital and downloadable. That's what Nigel said. Um, and obviously, like digital things don't sell for as much money, and their advertisers take up quite a bit of space. But without the advertisers, there's no magazine because they are like paying essentially to be in the magazine, which, anyways. But yeah, so that was sort of my overall assessment of things. And then I kind of wrote down notes for four of the characters. So I wrote down notes for Nigel, Emily, Andy, and Miranda in that order. And so we're gonna start with Nigel just because his storyline sort of is like my favorite from the first film. Um, Obviously, like, you feel for him with the betrayal at the very end where Miranda passes him up on an opportunity and he's like, she'll pay me back for that one day. But here's the thing, we are 20 years later, and canonically, Miranda has not paid him back yet for that. And like continued to do similar things to him over the years that Andy wasn't working at the magazine anymore. And so, like, I get why he didn't stand up for himself, but to go 20 years never getting recognition, never getting to accomplish the things he dreamed of, or like calling the shots in his life, like he said in the first film, and like getting to visit Paris and not just work in Paris. Like, he was so excited when he thought he was going to like get to be in charge of his own life, and then to just like not ever be in charge of his life for the next 20 years. I mean, obviously he had agency, but I don't know. It's just like, at what point are you just gonna like let it continue to happen? Because in the end, like, Andy had to advocate for him to keep his job and to let himself be seen. And I get that he's just doing what he loves and that he loves Runway specifically because when he was young, reading it under the covers with a flashlight instead of going to sports practice. Um, but like, I wanted more for him as a character. Not necessarily like I wanted him to lash out or, leave. Obviously, he's very attached to Runway specifically and probably like looks up and idolizes Miranda to an extent. I don't know. But like, he's her best worker and he's always been her best worker at Runway. And so for him to be mistreated time and time again and to just take it, I don't know. It's like, and like, he got to speak at the Runway fashion event that they hosted, but I don't feel that that's enough. Like, obviously, Miranda realizes, oh, Nigel does want, like, recognition, and he does want to, like, be in the spotlight a little bit. Like, he does want to be acknowledged, but it's still, I don't know. It's like, it's not in the same place of, like, I passed you up for multiple opportunities and you haven't been in charge of your life for the last 20 years because you've been working for me. It was just like, I wanted so much more for Nigel. And I was a little like, oh, like, I get it's not in his character to speak up and speak out, especially with Miranda and like how she is as like a creative director and whatnot, but it's still like, oh, yikes. And so next we have Emily. And this Emily really threw me for a loop in this movie because I was like, what happened to her? And specifically what happened between her and Miranda, because she low-key was like the quote-unquote villain in this film. Like, well, to an extent, because she was dating this really rich guy, and she had like convinced him to buy runway for her to run runway, which like that's crazy. I'm sure he had other motives in that, but also like to want to like trick Andy to steal it from her. Like it it doesn't make sense to me how she can have no bad feelings towards Andy but still like want to like slight her in order to get back at Miranda because she wanted to be friends with Andy, apparently. Um, she said at the end of the film that she called her after she left Runway in the first film to start her journalism career. And I just don't like I think Emily was a bit lonely to an extent um in terms of genuine friendship because I don't know, like when you have friendship that like with the other person who worked at Runway, I don't remember her character's name, but the one that she like sneers at Andy with when her outfits are terrible. Like when you have friendship that's like devolved on like is devolved the right word? It like stems from like following these toxic standards and being in this industry and like talking other people down for not being on the in, right? Um, then I don't know, it becomes questionable where it's like, is this a true fulfilling relationship, or do you just like pass the time by like talking about all these standards and then you go home and you're alone? Like, yeah. And the other thing that got me was like she said she wanted to run Runway, but like in the film she said herself that only retail makes money in the fashion industry these days because she worked at Dior. And she was like, she was like, what was she, a manager or something? She was like opening her own, like she was in charge of her own store. And I was like, why would she want to run Runway if she thought it wasn't even worth it? Like, does she want the power, the status to get back at Miranda? And it wasn't entirely clear what she needed to get back at Miranda for. And it also poses the question, if she really wanted to run a magazine, why not work at another magazine if she still liked it more than working at Dior and working retail? And then at the end, she sort of just accepts working at Coach. And, well, it's probably because she, like, double-crossed Miranda, so she's probably out of the places that are, like, I don't want to say allied with her, but they are. Um, and then also, she has a super messy relationship with her ex-husband. And, like, she has two kids with him, but like she said that he was a narcissist. And then, but like, I don't know. It's like, obviously, custody, court, and all of that is very complicated, but I guess it depends on the level of, like, I don't know. I don't know. It's a very interesting question. It's like, where do you draw the line as a co-parent where it's like, okay, these children need supportive, healthy adults in their life, but like, what if the adult isn't healthy? Like, do you still let them be around? And yeah, that's where I was like, Emily isn't even really focused on her kids to an extent, but she was quite good at like, well, her kids called her being upset with their dad, and she just kind of did like a breathing exercise with them, and then she was like, hand me the phone, or give the phone to your dad or something. And then she was like, just take them to get whatever they want. And he was like, well, I'm the one here with the kids, and so goodbye. And he hung up on her. And it's just like, yeah, she was, it almost in a way, they made it seem like she was living the single life almost, and like dating around, despite, I don't know, it just makes you wonder like what she was up to. Like, I don't understand. Oh, and yeah, okay, that concludes the section on Emily, because I was just confused. I really liked Emily's character in the first film. I thought she was funny, and obviously, like, she's mean, but like it's like a good level of mean, and this was just like a confusing level. Anyways, okay. Now to Andy. Okay, so there's no Nate in the picture, which I can kind of appreciate because I didn't really like him in the first film. I don't know. It was just like, is not for me. Like, obviously, Andy had her own hand in that relationship not working out, but I don't know. He was just supportive sometimes, but not all the time. And then he got hurt himself too. He wanted his girlfriend to be present for his birthday, and she's like basically married to her job and married to being Miranda's assistant because it's very intensive, but it was all for the betterment of her later career, obviously, unless she changed so much that she decided to shift paths entirely, but that didn't happen. But what I don't get about Andy's character in this sequel is she's finally a journalist, and she's like published. She's been working in or not magazines, in newspapers. She's like written all these things. She's gotten awards, but she says that she wants to get back to real journalism. And I was a bit confused because I was like, you've been doing real journalism. And she got laid off, obviously. But what I don't get is like why it seems like it's still something she's striving to do. Like she carries herself with more confidence because like the environment of runway is familiar, but her still being like, I don't know if I could write a book or not. Like, why not? Like, the writing process is like, you write it, there's revision, there's all these different steps. Like, that's what trying is for. And I like wish she had as much confidence in her aspirations and what she was going for. Um, in like the other like in the confidence in her physical looks because she can dress well. Like, and also in her moments trying to save Runway. I don't know. It's just like you are an accomplished journalist. Why are you still acting like you're not an accomplished journalist? I don't know if it's because like being around Miranda kind of sends her scrambling back into that place. But it's just like you have all these skills, you have connections in the industry, like you've been networking. It's like, why is there no confidence there? It's like she doesn't carry the identity of like, I've been this person who's done these things and traveled the world. Um, like that's a really cool career experience, and for her to just be like, I really just I gotta get back to journalism. It's like, girl, you're a journalist. What do you mean get back to journalism? If you see the market is shifting digital, then start either, I don't know, start publishing your own newspaper, start doing a digital magazine, like do like something. I don't know. Your audience has shifted focus. Shift with them. Like, I don't know. It was a little bit confusing to me why she had all this experience but no confidence. And then as for the romance plot line, um the repair with that guy, I don't remember his name. I'm so sorry. Um he was so nice to her, and they seemed to really like each other and like date well. They were seeing each other. But then she had a bad day and just like jabbed at him and his work. And she was like low-key really mean to him in my sight. Like he said he was just a contractor and it wasn't his choice to do the remodelings the way that they were done, but he like got to preserve the outside of the building by repurposing the inside to match what people wanted nowadays. And um yeah, so but the main thing was the main thing that really got me was that when they reconciled, if you can call it a reconciliation, is that she didn't really apologize. She was just like, let's be imperfect together. Um, and he accepted because he really liked her. But I don't know that there was a whole lot of repair to do on his end. Because I don't know. It feels like she sort of ruptured the connection because, well, obviously, like, he, if anything, it was like he didn't say what she needed in the moment. He compared it to her problem to the kind of work that he does with his contracting job, like remodeling old businesses. And she was just like, no, it's not the same thing. And what got me is like, okay, it's fair to say it's not exactly the same, but she can't be like remodeling these old buildings isn't nearly as important as whatever I'm doing. Like, that's putting the other person down. And it was just it was kind of mean. And I was like, I don't agree with Andy on this because, like, otherwise the building is just abandoned and eventually would get torn down, but he has brought new life to the place, and that place is like for people to live. Obviously, it's for, like, it seemed like quite an expensive place, especially given like New York real estate prices. I'm sure those apartment units are crazy, especially remodeled like that to be all sleek and modern and fancy. Um, but yeah, I don't know. It, you can be upset without putting the other person down. Just be like, hey, I know you mean well, but like, I don't want a comparison right now. I'm really upset, you know. I need you to like validate the emotions, basically. And maybe that's the step he missed, okay. But like, they were new to dating. Like, obviously, you're not gonna know what your partner needs automatically. You know, some people need quiet, some people need space, some people need to talk it out. Some people, you know, but it's important to not rush to solutions is generally the thing. But he didn't even rush to solutions. He was just like adding his own commentary, and she was like, it's not the same. She was just really upset. Um, yeah, okay. And so finally, we have reached Miranda. And Miranda in this movie, there was a lot going on, actually. And I was kind of confused a little bit because I sort of remember when the film was like originally coming out that she was going to have less of a role in this film, but I guess not, which I'm glad because I was like, what do you mean Miranda's not going to be in this film as much? Because she's like one of the main characters. I was like, how could you like phase her out? I don't know if that was like speculation. Obviously, don't believe everything you see on the internet. Maybe that's the lesson we learned. Um, but in this film, she had a huge choice to make, which was like retire and let her life's work go up in flames, as she always feared, but like have her family with her or continue working. And like, to some extent, I don't see how such a large company that has modernized as much as it has, where she can't work a little less to spend time with her husband and family if she wanted to. Like, I'm not saying she can't, like, what am I saying? I'm like, hold on. Lost the train of thought there. Okay, I'm not saying that she should, like, completely get rid of her work. Clearly, she loves that. She loves her work. She values what she does. But, um, she's doing less work because there's like less campaigns they're running, there's more advertisers coming in, like there's less space for her actual magazine as it used to be, you know? And so, and also like the industry has changed so much. I don't know if fast fashion has like played a role into maybe she does have more work to do or not. I don't know. But I was like, she could take a vacation. Like it doesn't have to be all or nothing. It was basically what I was saying. But she's not totally blind to having missed moments and been working all the time. Um, but like maybe some part of her character can't stop working for some reason. Like maybe if she stops working, she has to face the music of like all of her marriages and like missing her children's lives and like not being a person outside of being Miranda Priestley, um and like being just like the runner, like the main person of Runway. And even when she has little hearts to hearts with Andy, it's all things resulting from work. It's not like, oh, I'm like having these issues and then I'm coming to like think about work also. It's like all these things are happening at work, and so now I'm looking at these other things. Um, but her husband presented her with the question in the film: if you wake up and you have a drink and you look out into Milan, what do you want to do next after? And he like reassured her that he would be there even if she left Runway. And then she went to go tell Andy to call everyone to save Runway. So, like, in the end, she got full reign, which is something she's never had before. Um, and yeah, it was just like, why is this an all or nothing thing? Is basically like the world has changed so much. Um, she still likes paper copies, though. They did really emphasize that in the film. So she's definitely kept a lot of things the same with her workflow. It's just, I don't know. Maybe she doesn't know how to take a break. Or she just doesn't want to because she likes to work. But, a side note, one thing that I kind of did appreciate was that she didn't suddenly become perfect with body positivity, and like Simone Ashley's character was constantly correcting her, because it would not make any sense at all, given like the entire first film was like toxic body stuff and like stuff about dieting and weight loss and like just all these like old notions of sizes and things like that, and like being the right figure and all of these things. For the first film to be so securely anchored in that time, and for like Miranda Priestley to have so much power in that time, it wouldn't make sense for her as a character to suddenly be like, ah, yes, I'm always politically correct and socially correct, and like I never get anything wrong. Because clearly she still is kind of like hanging on to the 2006 mindset to a little bit. Like she's trying. She's genuinely trying. And like people can change and whatnot, but the industry certainly doesn't tolerate the whole size shaming thing anymore. From the first film, like you would get so canceled for that. Like yeah, but I really think that her and also Nigel a little bit. Um, I just think it wouldn't make sense for their characters to be like poof magically. You know, like there would have to be some work to get there. And if anything, maybe it's like even more realistic because I don't know, how long has it been? I don't remember when I first started seeing body positivity stuff. It hasn't been that long. So, I mean, obviously, the world is very different from like when the first film came out in 2006, but I think it wasn't until the late 2010s that the body positivity stuff was really there. I don't remember actually. But like as a character, I think it would take Miranda a really long time. Um, like she doesn't seem like a character who would do that. Like it seems like she's a character who would change because the industry demands she change, and that like it would be totally damaging and unacceptable if she didn't change, you know, which is like kind of why Simone Ashley's character is there. Which her character, it was fun. Um that whole like why would you give away Chanel line was great because yeah, Andy, why would you give away Chanel? You know, I get that you were working in journalism, but like come on. It's Chanel. And she's like, I didn't have anywhere to wear it. It's like, well, you could still keep it and like wear it on special occasions. Like it's, I don't know. Anyways, but yeah, so the sequel was really fun and was great. The Lady Gaga like cameo really surprised me. I wasn't expecting her to be in the film, but I did quite like the song that she made with Doechii for this film. It was quite nice. Well, she did two songs, I think, for this film. Anyways, it was great. Made sense because runways do have artists perform. Um, and obviously, like, they needed new songs for the film. I love that they put Vogue back in there because, I don't know, it's just, it's, it's so good and it's like so quintessential to the first film. But yeah, so those were all of my thoughts. And yeah, this is quite the meal of a video, but I hope if you stuck around for this long that you enjoyed and let me know what you thought of the sequel and anything I missed. obviously I didn't talk about everything, but I kind of sort of talked about the characters more specifically and just like their arcs over time. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed. I hope you have a good whenever. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Okay, bye. Also, I forgot to mention that this sequel had a major fumble in the fact that Andy's assistant, um, oh gosh, I don't remember her name. Andy's assistant is Asian, and like, really, they really went ham with an Asian stereotype that is just not acceptable to the public in media anymore. Um, which, like, stereotypes in general kind of aren't acceptable to the general public anymore, which, like, as they should, like, as a society, we should grow and progress. I think, um, specifically something that could have been interesting without making it about this character's identity was like maybe she really wanted to, like, I don't know, be overambitious and hardworking and like prove herself as Andy's assistant, and then in order to show the contrast between Andy now, having, you know, gone through the experience of being an assistant to Miranda Priestley, of all people, she could have been like, hey, you don't have to work that hard. You just need to do what I'm asking you to do. And, like, I'm gonna try to be reasonable. I, like, need you to go, like, do XYZ. I need you to edit this thing. I need you to, you know, like, obviously, they didn't give her a ton of screen time either. She was kind of just there to, like, ogle over the whole Nigel handing Andy more clothes situation. That was another thing. It's just like it could have been like a quintessential moment of Andy in a position of power and being able to be like, hey, I get that this industry is tense. I get that this workplace in particular, like, you really strive for success and that, you know, you want to prove yourself, but like, that's not the kind of person I am. And then it would have been like the perfect, I don't know, addressal of who Andy became as a person 20 years later, after having survived everything that she went through, and like how she actually changed to prove that, like, she isn't like Miranda after all, you know, like she feared. Um, yeah, so very big misstep. Um, could have been great for a character arc, but also just like having representation that doesn't rely on stereotypes. So that is the other thing.